Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. 1 2. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. 1 2. Mic check. Mic check. 1 2. I don't know where mic 2 is. Mic check. 1 2. Mic check. 1 2. We do not have a mic 2.
So I'm in a tap number, and they said to us,
Mic 3.
Alright,
So some genius. This mic was at that table. Put mic 1 at table 2.
won't be able to tell if they mess up.
But we don't know where. I don't know.
I feel like
It's probably one of these mics.
when you're tapping,
I'd have to go check.
tangible, right?
You can feel it, you can hear it.
All the rest are in order, I'm pretty sure. So this is mic 1 right here.
For you, buddy.
That one's unnumbered. It was at that table. No. Mic 4. Check, check. 1 2. Mic check. Mic 5. 1 2. It's probably one of those two. Oh. That makes sense. Mic check. 1 2. Mic check.
Who got these mics?
I found 2. I don't know what it's doing. I don't know what it's doing here, but mic check, mic check. Did he put him out?
Probably did. I think he was here, so.
Mic check,
Totally. I blame you.
mic check, number 9, 1 2.
Did you have a freshman advisor or smart class meeting today? What the?
5 6 7. All the mics are mixed up.
Well, one of them is broken.
Somebody needs to be looking at the microphones in here when speaking to them to find out what. Yeah, might be looking at the bottoms of them, but doesn't really say anything about what microphone it actually is.
No, I know.
All right, what mic do you think that is?
I think this one is,
What mic is that?
Mic 9, should be 9.
Talk into it for a second.
it is 9, but there's no guarantee it's broken.
Oh, maybe it's plugged in. Yeah,
Because 9 is broken.
yeah, they could be swapped.
7 is broken, Cole. 7 is broken. Number 7 port is broken.
Yeah, this
The
one.
number 7 hole, listen, just so we're clear on what's going on with what's broken. The number 7 plug down there is broken. Only the number 7 plug is broken. So we want to try to keep number 7 from being
So
used.
you want to swap these?
It's exactly what I did. Well, I don't think, listen, I don't even know if you got that right. So, okay, now we have to find out where this one goes, because I don't know where it goes. You guys are just assuming that mic 7 is mic 7. That's mic 7 right there, Cole. It's plugged into something over here. Just so you know, all right? I'm going from mic 7. I followed that cord right there, Cole. You see it, Cole? This one right here. This one right here, Cole.
No, I see.
This is 7. It goes through that hole and it goes to that microphone right here.
Which is why, okay.
Now, please go in there, Casey, and tell us which one lights up when I talk into this microphone. Which one's lighting up right now? What? Yeah, duh. So this needs to be done, this needs to be back in the number 10. So I don't know who did that, Cole. I didn't do it, but we need to fix it right now. Where's my phone? Why do I have to do this stuff? Why can't you guys figure it out for me? Please. Don't make me, I have a problem with YouTube right now. And we're live right now. People listen to what I'm saying in here. I don't like that either.
Mike 11, check, check.
So, listen, I'm not gonna bend over and do this. Somebody else put that wire back in that thing. Right now, Rob. I pulled it out because I had to come out here and figure out what's going on. Because Rob got all confused. I just asked him to go do the mics. It turned into something totally different.
No, I'm not gonna say anything.
I don't get it. Okay, now, I'm gonna go to mic 1. Mic 1, check 1, 2. Is that mic 1? Does mic 1 is mic 1 lighting up right now? What's lighting up? All right, here we go. We got another issue. All right, what about now? All right. I seen you swap these earlier, Rob. I don't know why.
That's number 2.
Had enough.
This one's not even numbered.
I don't care.
Just tell me where they're plugged
Put it
in.
where it goes, where it was. Leave it where it was, Rob. You're gonna fix the world. Come on. I asked you to come out here and check the mics. I'm still waiting to get the mics checked.
I just did them.
No, you moved everything around and said nothing was right.
I was going on the table while you were yelling at me.
Go sit in the other room, Rob. No, you're not. I'll do it for you. All right. All right, now I'm gonna check mic 3. And that way you can find them, make sure mic 3 is connected to the right spot. And it actually works, because we haven't checked it yet. Check mic 3. Right, Casey? Check mic 4. Check mic 5. Check mic 6. Check mic 7. Check mic 8.
Well, because
Listen, that doesn't need to be 10, okay? We're gonna fix it now, we're gonna fix it. Check mic 9. What mic is that?
10.
for the planning board meeting, we swapped it because this is a full board, so we put that there. And
I just told you to fix it, Cole. When that was going all the way over there, 7 was plugged into that mic, I thought you fixed it.
well, we need,
Unplug the mic that says 7, Cole,
Mike, check.
and unplug the mic that says 10.
11.
We need to figure out the problem that's going on here, Cole, but one of the ways to fix it isn't swapping all of it. I know it fixed the meeting, but we need to fix this problem and fix it. All right, I'm gonna try it one more time, because we need to know where the mics are. All right. So this is mic 8, right? And this is mic 7? What did we just do? Oh, all right. I swapped them. I probably shouldn't have. Is this mic 7? I think it's, is that at 12 o'clock? Check 1, 2, yeah, it's still low, right? All right. And this is mic 9? All right. Turn up, we just gotta check that wireless over there, Rod. Did you check the wireless yet? This is mic 10?
Wireless check.
This is mic 11?
Wireless check, 1, 2.
This is mic 12. Now, the only problem we have is there's still something wrong with 7. And right now, we've moved 7 to 8, just for tonight. I gotta figure, one of the things we gotta do is we gotta stop using that port, or I gotta buy new audio equipment. Turn the mics down, please. All of them. I don't care what it says on the bottom of the mic at this point. Where you going with that?
recognize that. Hello, how are you? Ah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January 3rd meeting of the Pelham, New Hampshire Board of Selectmen, which is being conducted in a cavern. Is the feedback good? All right, better, thank you. All right, we're going to call this meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If Mr. Keeshan would lead us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We're going to begin with a review of the meeting minutes of the December 13th meeting. Does anybody have any corrections that need to be made?
Motion to approve the minutes as is.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 5-0. All right, before we get into anything else, I have a notice from Jen Beauregard, our planning director, and it reads, as many of you are aware by now, the town of Pelham is in the middle of creating a new master plan. As part of this process, we need to engage the public as much as possible for it to be an accurate reflection of the town's wants and needs. We will be conducting a community forum event on February 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m., and we are hoping you will all attend. I'm sure we'll be here. I'm sorry?
Assume that's here.
That's an excellent question.
It
I
is
would
at
assume
Sherburne
that
Hall,
is here,
6 to
yes.
8.
Yep, so February 22nd, 2023, and we will hopefully see many, many of you there. All right, that being covered, is there anybody here to speak to the board in open forum? All right, seeing none, we can begin with our appointments for 6:35. We have an interview with an applicant for the Zoning Board of Adjustment, one of the alternate positions. So we are looking for one alternate for a 2-year term, which would expire in 2024. Is that correct?
Let me see.
Or would the 2-year term expire in 2025 at this point?
It's a 2-year term.
I know, but I'm just, 2024 is next year now. So, that's fine. All right, so, Mr. Welch, if you're here. Hi. Name and address into the microphone, please.
Hi, my name is Matt Welch. I live at 33 Brookview Drive in Pelham. I'm here to seek consideration for an alternate position on the ZBA. Over the past year or so, I've got a real crash course in the town zoning ordinance, and with seeing all the meetings, they always open with seeking alternates, seeking help, so I'd like to participate and give back in any way I can.
Excellent. So it says here your goal is to aid in preserving the rights of property owners and to find a balance between property owners and abutters, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Please.
So can you tell me what you mean by find the best balance between property owners and abutters?
Yeah, obviously, the main priority is preserving the rights of the property owners to do with their property as they please within the confines of what the town sets forth. But I believe that there should be some balance to take in some of the considerations of the abutters who would be affected by those things. So basically exactly what the ZBA does.
I could be wrong, but isn't the Board of Adjustment illegal? Isn't it quasi judicial?
It is a quasi judicial board,
So
yes.
it's, you have to abide by the law, not.
Correct, absolutely.
So my question is, there are courses offered through the New Hampshire municipal
Yeah.
groups that would sort of lay these, the finer points of the ZBA out in terms of the criteria used to make decisions and what qualifies as a hardship versus what qualifies as, you know, an inconvenience, for example. But in that it is a quasi-judicial group, we do hope that everyone approaches this sort of position with a relative level of seriousness. Would you be willing to take one of those courses?
Absolutely. I've already spoke with Ms. Beauregard last week about some of the courses and material offered. So I've already started doing some research into those courses on my own, and I'm open to any of the suggestions that you all would have for me to take.
Great. Please,
I think we're ready for a motion.
if you'd like to make one, I'm willing to accept.
I would like to make a motion to have Matthew Welch as a ZBA alternate for a 2-year term ending in 2025. So that would
Second.
be-
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. All right, so that's 5-0, congratulations. Thank you very much for stepping up to help.
Thank you very much.
I bumped it up. So the 2-year term ends in '24, but if we, this is old from last year, so they would go to '25, 2 years?
Well,
This
it's
is
my-
no longer a
that was my
3-year?
question.
It's a good question. 23, 24, 2 years.
Okay.
Already have the book. It would be in the book.
So I'm,
That's fair.
I'm sorry, that caught me off guard. I'm not sure, do we have an opening for if it were to expire in '25? Melissa would know that.
I do believe we have one alternate for a 3-year term, which would expire in 2025.
Okay, so the motion would be for that position to expire in 2025,
24.
whether it's a 2 or a 3.
It says one alternate for 2 years, term expires 2024.
Hold on. I think you need to just go off when the term expires.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
You need to go off of when the term expires because the seat's been vacant. So if it's a 3-year seat, it's a 3-year seat, but if 1 year's passed, that 3-year seat is only 2 years, but it's still a 3-year seat. So I think you just need to go off the expiration date of that particular seat.
The notice that was posted said that there is one alternate for 2 years, term expires 2024, and one alternate for 3 years, term expires 2025. I'm just reading
Yeah,
the
I know what it says.
posting.
Seeking.
But what I'm saying is that I think it was just maybe not a typo, but,
We've had this posting up for probably
Since last year.
since last year.
right.
I think that's why.
So my motion was for the term to expire in 2025, and I believe that's what we voted on.
Sure.
So that if we don't put a term on it, there.
I'm fine with that.
We want to check with Mr. Welch, see if he's okay with that. Before we,
So left a little.
I know,
guess
we
I
just
left
turned it
little
into a
quick.
life sentence, sorry.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
Nope, I'm good.
I'm good, thank
There.
you. Sorry about that.
Like just before we,
Problem.
all right, next up on the agenda is a public hearing for the Board of Selectmen to accept Chardonnay Drive as a town road. All right, so from the Planning Department, I have a note saying the plan was approved on November 18th of 2019. Chardonnay Road is an 8-lot subdivision. At present, it's fully occupied. Is that still correct?
Yes.
Okay. Located off of Sherburne Road. They are looking to, let's see, we still have a cash bond remaining, being held for the remaining work, which is surveying the monuments, pinning, survey pins, erosion controls, loam and seed, a final as-built plan, and a stop bar. So is essentially, we're looking to accept this road so that we can actually maintain it through the winter. And then ideally, the contractor will complete these final items? No.
No. So basically,
So
what's going on here is the developer has abandoned the property, has abandoned the rest of the project. So whether we like it or not, we're going to get stuck with this road. If we don't do something now, then the road just is in like a purgatory between the contractor and us. So he doesn't really own it because he's bankrupt, and we don't own it because we haven't accepted it. So, in all fairness, the development's pretty much done.
Yeah, this is a pretty small.
So instead of having it go through magistrates and judicial stuff, for lack of a better word,
I think that's the technical term.
I think the right thing to do, even though it's, might be irregular, is to just go ahead and accept this road, and the town will deal with the consequences, because it'll get done much faster, and it'll just be better for the residents that live there. So, the road has already been installed, just hasn't overwintered, which is a requirement. However, Jeff Quirk's memos and everything kind of basically saying that, you know, so even if it doesn't overwinter, then what's going to happen? Doesn't matter. We're still going to be having to sort it out. So, and just as a matter of procedure and getting things done the right way, I think it's just proper that we accept the road. We're going to bust through the rest of the bond that we're going to take from the developer, use that to set the stones, and there might be a few other small things that we need to do just to button up the development. So.
On that, who does the work? So do we hire an outside engineer, or does Keach do it for us? So doing the pins, the erosion controls, the lumen seed, how do we go about that?
As far as the site work, I think it's Jeff Quirk, right?
Right. Originally, that surveying was going to be done by Hebert and Associates, but when the project went bankrupt, they were no longer interested in doing it because they knew they wouldn't be paid. My understanding from speaking to Jen Beauregard is they are now interested in doing the work in the spring. That $17,000 is readily accessible. We've already claimed that. So Selectman Cody's correct. This road is, the highway agent has looked at it. It's ready to go. Really minor stuff that can be handled in the spring, almost all of it by Hebert, and they are willing to do it. So I think this is very much the correct action at this point. And we'll be the ones paying for those services to be done.
Right.
Out of the bond.
It's good.
Usually what happens is the planning board releases the bonds to the, to the developer as the project moves forward. So we're just basically jumping ahead of a step here.
Right.
And then we'll go back to the planning board and have them release the bond to the town so the town can finish the work, basically.
Yep, I mean, I understand that point of it. 17,825 is good. It shouldn't cost the town any money to get this done.
Right. Hopefully.
Hopefully. All right. Then I suppose we're looking for a motion to accept?
No, you have to open it to the public first.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry.
See, I didn't get the front page. All right, is there anyone here who would like to speak to the issue? Anyone else have any questions on the board?
Nope.
Now, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept Chardonnay Road in its condition.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. All right. There we
Sorry,
go.
I gotta amend my motion, accept Chardonnay as a public town road, so I'm not sure if I gotta clarify that.
Okay. Oh, into the record then.
All right,
Thank you.
is that okay?
That works.
All right.
All right, moving ahead, it does look like we have an additional encumbrance request from the planning department.
I can take this one.
Please, by all means.
So I came to the board in December to ask for 2022 encumbrances, and a few days after that meeting, the planning department put forth one more request. We still have time to process it. It's for that master plan that you opened the meeting with, Chairman Corbett. And there is $80,000 in the 2022 budget to cover the project. There was a contract signed for $80,060. Some spending has occurred, but the remaining cost of the project is $38,104.75. And the planning director anticipates this project will finish in the middle of 2023. So we do need to encumber in order to put this in the correct budget year, because there is no funding for this project in the 2023 request. So I'm just looking for a motion to encumber this.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
You are welcome. Are they going to hold our feet to the fire on this one since it's a public hearing? For the acceptance of a special one-time bridge payment in accordance with Senate Bill 401 in the amount of $249,956.47.
Do you want me to speak on this?
Do you want to jump to the next one first?
I was going to say, I'm like,
It's not quite 6:55 yet.
it is not, and that was my...
Oh,
You want to just go to the default budget first and then double back?
Sure.
All right, so a final vote on the 2023 default operating budget. Darn it. Stay on. All right. For anyone at home who is not 100% confident in the definition, the statutory definition of a default budget means the amount of the same appropriations as contained in the operating budget authorized for the previous year, reduced and increased as the case may be by debt service contracts and other obligations previously incurred or mandated by law, and reduced by one-time expenditures contained in the operating budget and by salaries and benefits of positions that have been eliminated in the proposed budget. So that being said, I went to town on this. This is like everything.
I can be wordy, let me know if I need to jump in.
Sorry, what was that?
I can be wordy in that documentation.
No,
let me
it's
know.
great. I think the more information, the better. Do we have a number somewhere in this that we can hop to for?
Page 2 of the memo.
It's 19 million.
Yep.
943, 898.
General discussion, that is the 23. The 2023 default budget would be $19,943,898. The default budget is actually $446,097 lower than the 2022 operating budget, as noted in the default budget paperwork. All right, does anybody have any questions, comments, or thoughts on this before budget reconsideration? Let's see. The 2023 proposed operating budget as it stands today, before budget reconsideration hearing and the deliberative session, is at $21,209,478. Therefore, the 2023 default budget is $1,265,580, lower than the 2023 proposed budget.
May I chime in and just add that
Absolutely,
about
Meg.
571,000 that I had to back off the default budget were one-time appropriations.
What was the dollar amount on that, please?
571,649. That's in that spreadsheet that I
Yep.
believe I shared.
Mr. Croto?
I'm going to make a motion, if you're okay with that.
Does anyone want to talk about this before we start accepting motions? As you were?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2023 default budget of $19,943. $19,943,898.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. All right, so that's 5-0. Motion carries. Thank you very much. This is fantastic. Thank you very much for the document.
You're welcome. We are required by law to post that. I'll be circulating something for your signature on a DRA form.
Yep. All right, we are just about there, so we're going to bounce back to the prior agenda item, which is a public hearing for the acceptance of the special one-time bridge payment. This is in accordance with Senate Bill 401 in the amount of $249,956.47. This is to be used only for the maintenance, construction, or reconstruction of municipally owned bridges. Does anyone on the board have any questions before we open this to the public? All right, anyone in the audience have anything to say to this? It's a rowdy crowd tonight. Well, as a general discussion item on Senate Bill 401, these are surplus funds that are distributed based on population and municipal bridge deck surface area. They provide immediate resources to repair, maintain, and construct municipally owned bridges and culverts. These funds must supplement, not supplant, local budgeted funds. All right, since there's no one here who would like to speak to this, I'm going to close a portion of the public hearing, move it back to the board. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to address? It's a very cut and dry agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the $249,956.47 for the one-time bridge payment.
In accordance with Senate Bill 401.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries.
We need to make a motion to close the public hearing on that, or no?
Sure.
Second.
Please. Great, all those in favor?
Aye.
Vote aye. Done the default budget. All right, so that brings us to the final warrant article review. I would like, before we get too far into this, I would like to tip the cap to Troy Brissett from the school board for noting a RSA misdirect on this. We had the wrong number on ours, and they caught it for us, so thank you to the school board. What is the preferred way to go through this? Do you guys want to go through this one article at a time? See if there's questions or comments, and then accept them individually, or accept the entire warrant as one?
I think we need to vote on each one, so we have the tally.
Huh? All right, so I guess we'll start at the beginning for assessing the solar warrant articles. Shall the town of Pelham vote to modify the current solar energy exemption pursuant to RSA 72:62 up to 100% of the assessed value of the qualifying equipment as defined in RSA 7261? Under 7261, the definition of solar energy systems for purposes of exemption under RSA 7262, adopted before January 1st, 2020. A solar energy system means a system which utilizes solar energy to heat or cool the interior of a building or to heat water for use in a building, and which includes one or more collectors and a storage container. A solar energy system also means a system which provides electricity for a building using photovoltaic panels. All right, does anyone have any questions on this one?
Motion to accept the solar warrant article as written.
I don't think we're making motions.
We have to vote, though, to have a tally, right?
No, we did it, we did vote to have a tally. We're just,
I think we were voting to, the first time were we voting to just send them to legal, or what exactly were we
just to put it
voting
on the warrant. No, I think we're not approving it to go on the warrant, we're making a motion, trying to figure out what your motion should be. That's what I'm trying to figure out, because it's on the ballot.
You're correct.
So the motion would be,
To support?
right. So I just think the chair should lead that direction. You know what I mean?
So-
So instead of approve, support would be the word.
Right. So I just think the chair should say all those in support or all those not in support, something like that.
Okay, so no motions required?
I don't think a motion's warranted,
No pun
because we're not
intended.
accepting anything.
This is true?
Makes sense.
That's fair.
So I just think the chair should just direct.
That
My
is fair.
apologies.
No,
That's, listen, we're kind of all feeling our way through this one. All right, so. all the-
Just for notation, we have approved or not approved, so we'll call it supported or not supported.
Not
Correct.
Okay, so we'll just use those terms, and we'll get the tally, supported or not supported.
Okay, so we're going to scratch approved and not approved. That's fair. Like I haven't had enough coffee. Okay,
Can we still ask a question?
absolutely. Please.
So what are we doing here?
So this essentially, these have all made it to the warrant article. This is just for that final piece that we've discussed in meetings past about who supports this versus who is opposed to
Right,
this.
right, I guess what I meant was, what are we doing for are we allowing an exemption? Are we allowing them to be assessed? What,
So the way they're changing it now is the average house that gets solar panels put on it, their property value usually goes up $70,000. So what they're looking to do now is we're not going to increase their assessed value it'd be 0%. So if it's 70,000 that's coming up on their appraisal, or way the town figures it out, we're going to be erasing that 70,000.
so we would be exempting the whole 70,000?
Exactly,
Yes.
or whatever the increase is. I'll be honest with you, after re-looking into it, I'm not gonna support this, just because I feel like if someone is potentially getting revenue from this, or, I mean, it depends how you clarify revenue, but I feel like, why should we be not taxing them if they're making something from this? I mean, you put in a pellet stove, it gives you an increase to your value, it's heating your house and stuff like that, and we're not giving them a break, or, I don't know. To me, I think this is more of a, I totally support solar panels. It seems like they're just trying to incentivize going green and getting solar panels, but I just feel like to take 100% off, it's just, I don't know if I could support that. But that's just me.
So this says we would exempt up to 10,000.
That's what it is now.
That's what it is now.
Now we're doing the full, whatever it comes out to. And I believe it's just residential. I don't know if Kevin can explain that better for me. It doesn't say it in this, but I don't think, because if, to me, I was thinking if someone puts a whole solar array in a field, we're not gonna tax them on that.
Right? Yeah,
But
residential, it says, until last year, we had not assessed residential solar arrays. Although it doesn't distinguished in the actual warrant article.
Because that's why I thought it was strange. If you put in a whole field of solar arrays, we're not gonna tax that? That doesn't make sense to me. Because they're gonna get revenue from that solar array. Maybe it's just for putting them on your house. It doesn't really break it down that way on this.
And it's not specifying residential or commercial, so it could be
Well,
uncommercial also.
it's changing what we already have, so if the original 10% was just on residential, I just don't see that here.
Well, I mean, there's one tax rate, right? Is it based on how we assess things? Because it's not like we have a separate tax rate that would be varied. I
No.
mean, everything gets taxed and assessed by the same
Right.
standard.
So I think whether you put it on your house or you
Or on
put a
your
whole
business.
field of them, I think it's the same.
I don't know if it's the same, actually. Because if you put it in the field, it's actually a structure. So it could be looked at differently.
But this isn't just saying putting it on the roof, or some people who don't put them on the roof. they
This just
do it
says solar
small.
energy system, so it could be ground mounted as well.
And I don't want to like confuse everybody at the last minute. It was just, when I was looking into it, I thought it was strange. And other towns are doing it, so I mean. Looks like Milford, Goffstown, Nashua, Exeter, Portsmouth, Farmington, and Bedford have all done the same change to theirs.
The question is whether solar panels add value to your house or not. So I know many people who won't buy a house with solar panels. So it's a question of whether solar panels actually increase the value of your house. So we're saying here, this article is saying that if the value of your house is increased due to solar panels, that we're going to remove that excess value. So what is the value of, so we're saying here it's $1,500 a panel. So,
When I checked with her, it was averaging 70,000 a house, on average.
A house?
Is what she came up with.
So some people won't buy a house with a pool because they don't want a pool, but a pool
Right.
adds value to your house,
Right.
to some people.
But we're still taxing you on that pool.
Um,
This is an energy source too, so I mean, that's where it gets kind of tricky.
the tricky part is like, if you put a new boiler in, is your assessed value going to go up or down, or does it matter? It's not going to matter. So I think they're just putting it on par with your basic operation of your.
Doesn't that increase the value of a house?
Of
Putting in a new boiler?
New boiler wouldn't, but if you wanted to add a secondary source, like a pellet stove, it would
Right.
increase it.
Functionality of your house? No, if you updated your kitchen and,
Sure.
yeah, if you put all sorts of granite in and did all sorts of upgrades, yeah. But basic functionality of your house, I wouldn't think so. There's a new
I
roof,
put in a whole bunch of new windows, and that increased the value of my house.
the assessed value?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
I don't think that's possible.
Windows, roof, like all that stuff, none of it, so,
A roof, I don't see anything about a roof on an assessment.
Appraisal,
Something to-
I would say not.
well, the
assessment.
appraisal for sure is crazy, but
I
Back
think
and
I
look
would
at my
agree.
paperwork.
I don't think I could support this either, 100%.
all right, well,
Maybe a smaller percentage, but not 100.
It is becoming more popular. I mean, during our bi-weeklies, what Jen said, 45 new permits this year alone. So that is a lot of tax revenue. Do we know how many homes currently have solar in town that are taking advantage of the $10,000 exemption?
I did ask that question, it was a small amount. A lot of people just don't know.
Yeah.
They don't really advertise it. And you just did. But yeah, it was a small amount.
all right, is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of supporting?
I'll support it.
I will support it.
I'll support it.
Not supporting.
Not support.
So 3 in favor, 2 not, 3 supporting, 2 not supporting is the proper language, correct? Great. All right, second article, also from the assessing department, for increasing the elderly exemption amount and qualifying income. Shall the town vote pursuant to RSA 72:39-A and 72:39-B to modify the current elderly exemption and income limits from property tax in the town of Pelham for qualified taxpayers as follows? For persons aged 65 to include 74 years of age, $114,000. For persons 75 to including 79 years of age, $164,000. For persons 80 years and above, $212,000. In addition, a qualified taxpayer must have an annual net income of not more than $48,000 if single, and not more than a combined net income of $58,000 if married and owning assets, excluding the value of the person's residence, not more than $250,000. So these increases are based on the 8.2% inflation rate between 2021 and 2022, and the 2022 exemption amounts are for 65 to 74, $106,000, for 75 to 79, $152,000, and for 80 and older, $196,000, with income limits at $44,000 for single, $54,000 for married, and the net assets don't change, about $250,000. Out with it.
Well, being the oldest member on the board here. No, actually, I would support this. The changes aren't that significant, and I think we would like to try to keep people in their homes if possible. So the income guidelines and the income guidelines of $44,000 and $54,000, like really? I think I could support this.
Does anyone else have anything for discussion? All those supporting?
I'll support. I'll support.
All right, so full support of the board? All right. Moving along, again for the assessing department, a blind exemption. Shall the town of Pelham vote to modify the current blind exemption per RSA 72:37 from $15,000 to $57,800? I am going to read part of this descriptor. Most towns have left the exemption the minimum prescribed by the state, which is the $15,000, allowing for amendment when the community decides to do so. Our current blind exemption was adopted in 1982. The cost of living has increased, obviously, since then. The blind exemption is not an income means test. However, the person must be certified by the State Department of Education to be eligible for this exemption. We do have a list of neighboring communities that have increased their exemption amount as of 2021. And, we've got a range. Towns like Amherst, 37,000, Salem, 90,000. But Ms. Nye did the average out for our area to be $57,818 for the blind exemption. We will open it to discussion.
I think it's much like the last one. It's really not a significant amount. That's going to,
It's really not. And I will say, having not addressed it since 1982, we are
So
a little overdue.
this is $57,800 off of their assessed value that they would not have to pay tax on.
Yes.
Yep.
Pending they meet the criteria set forth.
What is the criteria?
So the State Department of Education would be the ones to make that determination.
Okay, so the person, the person has to live at reside at the residence. They don't have to be an owner or a deeded owner of the property, right? Let's say if somebody lived with me that was blind, would this exemption follow that? I guess I'm not clear on that.
I don't know. That's a good point.
It just doesn't, it doesn't explain that to me.
Doesn't what? I'm sorry.
It doesn't explain that to me.
Oh.
It's the blind exemption.
I would assume it's an owner. I don't think they would do it like if you had a blind child or something like that.
That would be my assumption as well. It just doesn't.
The assumption is that they own the property or that they just live there?
It doesn't clarify either way to me. I get the common sense part of it.
Well, let's see if there's anything.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't even know how many people, if any, it affects in Pelham.
I believe when Ms. Snide was here talking about it the first time, we're talking about a single-digit number.
Property exemptions usually apply to owners. I don't know about this particular one, though.
I mean,
Every inhabitant who is legally blind as determined by Blind Services Program Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation, Department of Education, shall be exempt on the assessed value for property tax purposes of his or her residential real estate to the value of $15,000. Yeah, so I would assume it would be the owner of the property, based on the language in the RSA. Of his or her residential real estate, right?
yeah, makes sense. Just doesn't state it, that's all. That was my,
I wonder what the original exemption, because this is just modifying the current exemption?
It's from 15,000 to 57,000.
This is essentially, it's modifying the town's exemption because the state minimum is the 15.
Right, so if we're modifying the current blind exemption, there must be something that states what the exemption is, whether it's the owner or just a resident of the,
yeah.
Yeah,
I think Heather just read it in.
I'm sorry.
it's in the RSA.
I have a hard time hearing her.
Good. Speak up.
Hmm?
I think it looks good.
All right. All those supporting?
Yep.
Yeah.
I vote yes. What did we do before the internet? Been a much longer talk. All right, again, still in the assessing department, the next one is to re-adopt the optional veterans tax credit, which is RSA 72:28, Roman numeral 2, shall the town of Pelham re-adopt the optional veterans tax credit of $500 pursuant to RSA 72:28, Roman numeral 2, to include individuals who have not yet been discharged from service in the armed forces. If readopted, the NHDRA, the credit will remain in place for the 2023 tax year. If not, the credit will revert to the $50 as mandated by RSA 72:28-I and include individuals who have not yet been discharged from service in the armed forces.
So this is not an exemption, this is $500 off their taxes.
Yes, it is a tax credit.
Yep.
I've actually had veterans show up to my place of business and tell me they moved here for that tax credit, because we honor and respect veterans. Literally, that was the words he used, to move to our community.
Yeah, I think it looks good. I mean, $50 isn't much. 500, I think, makes more sense.
Yep. And so, because I know we're gonna have this discussion on the next one, this one pertains to people who served in combat, whereas the next one is all veterans tax credit, correct? I'm just teeing up the next discussion, but, so this one is just a veterans tax credit, so is this the one that deals with?
First one says optional, the second one is not optional. First one says,
Well, I know, but it
The
also says the
optional-
optional veterans tax credit, the next one is the all veterans tax credit.
right,
Okay.
so does someone get both? Could someone get both of them, or they qualify for one or the other?
I think the difference is whether you've been discharged or not discharged. I thought that was,
Nope,
No, I
the
think they
discharge
both say
language is in
not-
both. I believe the discussion we had before was whether or not they actively
oh, okay.
served. Not
Active.
served, that is incorrect terminology, whether they saw
Saw combat.
deployment, were deployed,
I think
We
it's
had the
combat or
discussion.
non-combat.
combat, and non-combat.
It doesn't break that down in this, I don't know why. She explained it to us though when she was here.
Yeah, but explaining it and the legality of the town warrant article is two different things.
These already went to the lawyer though?
They have.
So the way that I understand this is one is for an active member and one is for a non-active member.
No, the language in both of these, to include individuals who have not yet been discharged, is in both.
We have not been discharged from service in the armed forces.
These have been reviewed by the town council. After they're approved by or supported by the board and the budget committee, they all have to be provided to DRA for review.
Okay.
So there is one final look over of all these.
I guess that's the big question is, what's the difference between the two, the way they worded it, besides optional veterans or
All veterans.
all veterans? I guess the optional veterans really doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the RSAs are different.
Yeah, the RSAs are a little different.
But they both call back to the same RSA. They both cite if readopted. Oh, if it is not yeah. If not, okay, so if it doesn't pass, then we revert, both of these revert back to 72:28-I. So they both go back to the same one.
You got 7228 and 7228B.
Right. So 7228, is it, I think it's 7828 Roman numeral 2.
Yeah.
And
I have the MS1 up, and the veterans credit's identified as 7228, and the all vets credit is identified as 7228B.
so the Roman numeral 2 isn't showing up in what you have.
Not on the MS1 form. It's a DRA form. Maybe there's something missing from it.
Do you know the difference between the two?
Well, if I have the RSA up now. 7228B specifically talks about World War II.
Tax credit, all right.
I don't know. I guess I would support it, but I think we need to kind of reword the difference between the two to make it easier for the
Well, I'm hoping that when it comes back from the DRA, there's some
voter.
clarity provided in the language, but, I mean, worst case scenario, we're gonna have to spell this out in the voter's guide and explain the difference and what each one means very specifically.
7228-2 says the optional veterans tax credit upon adoption shall be an amount from 51 up to 750. The optional veterans tax credit shall replace the standard veterans tax credit in its entirety and shall not be in addition thereto.
Okay, well, that answers do they get both?
So if you vote yes on one and no on the other, one will be in existence. If you vote yes on both, then you're still only getting one.
I feel like she said it was active and non-active when she explained it to us.
I do recall that.
Or it was combat and non-combat. It was
Yeah.
one of those two, when she explained to us, but it was worded differently than this. Or maybe she just explained it better and,
I mean, it's all in the RSA, under number 4, the following person shall qualify for the standard veterans tax credit or the optional veterans tax credit. Every resident of the state, it goes on, surviving spouse of any resident who suffered a service-connected death. Every resident of this state who was terminated from the armed forces because of service-connected disability or the surviving spouse. And then it goes on to mention all the different wars, any other war or armed conflict that has occurred since May 8th, 1975, in which the resident earned an Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal or Theater of Operations Service Medal. It's all in the 7228.
Yeah, I think that's a difference.
If you, honestly, if you're voting yes, they're only gonna get one exemption or credit. Some people might say no to one and yes to the other one. I mean, I really don't think there's that much of a difference.
So would they qualify for both, or would they just qualify for one?
Just one.
Just one.
This one.
So if you did the second one doesn't really have a restriction. It says it qualifies all voters, all
Well,
veterans.
there's qualifications in the RSA,
In the first one, there is.
both of them.
In the second one, it just says, a person shall qualify if you're a resident of the state and served not less than 90 days, honorably discharged. There's like no, there's no
Right, but that's the
limitation.
qualifications,
So anybody that's a veteran
basically.
could, but the first one,
It's more stringent.
it is, it's got restrictions to it.
Right.
So you could not accept the first one and just pass the second one.
Correct. But if both of them pass at the town warrant, at the town meeting,
They only get one, they get one or the
Yeah.
other.
the better one is the exemption or the credit. Understand that?
So why do we need to do both?
Because some people that fought recently don't qualify for 7228.
I'll explain it this way. So if you're in, so basically, one says if you're in the military, then you can get a tax credit. The other one says that you've had to have fought in the military.
Right.
So my view is, just because you were in the military doesn't mean you were, my view of the military is like infantry, mechanized units, that type of thing. But there's also lawyers and accountants and finance people that just sit in an office. And some people don't think that those people should get the tax break.
I see what you're saying.
They're not really sacrificing, per se. You can argue it whatever way you want. Some people believe that as long as you go in the military, you've done service to your country and you deserve a tax break. Others believe that, well, depending on what you did in the military is, 90% of the military really is just support. It's only 10% that actually does actual, what we think, military stuff. I'm not undermining the military, I'm just saying that that's how it is.
Well,
I will say I'm in support of both. You can't get one, you can't get both, you can only get one.
You can only get one.
yeah, you can only get
So
But
one.
like
we're-
he's
we're-
saying-
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Nope.
you go.
Kevin's explanation, it works. So I'm in favor of both.
All right, so let's take this just in terms of the first one. Readopting the optional veterans tax credit. All those to support?
Yep,
support.
Yes.
Yes.
5-0. And then on to the second. Shall the town of Pelham readopt the all veterans tax credit? All those in support?
yep.
Yes.
No.
4 and 1. Okay. All right. And that brings us to the end of the assessing warrant. assessing portion of the warrant articles. Next up is forestry, town's conservation areas to town forests. Shall the town vote to establish as town forests pursuant to RSA 31:110 through 113 the following parcels: tax map 31, lots 11 through 32, 11-32, 11-34, and 11-35. Oh man, I'm going to butcher this one. Formerly owned by the, does someone else want to take a swing at this? Klikowski?
There you go. Good job.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Oof. And add them to the abutting Blueberry Circle Town Forest. The enlarged town forest will total approximately 57 acres, no tax impact. Majority vote required, recommended by the Forestry Committee. Anyone have any conversations, discussions that would like to,
Once this goes under forestry, or it becomes a town forest, it's under forestry's control, correct?
correct?
Correct.
So they're the stewards of the forest, and the town loses its say.
What about loses its say?
You mean loses its say?
So the way that I understand it is, once it goes into a town forest, it is governed or protected by the forestry committee, that board only. So
Manage the
if-
forest, yeah.
Manage.
for forest management. So if conservation wanted to do something there, they couldn't without forestry's permission. If the selectmen wanted to do something there, we couldn't without the forestry's permission.
Basically.
Correct.
Right. What is the benefit for the town to put this into forestry?
I think because forestry has a setup with harvesting it and taking care of it, they have a system in place now where I don't think conservation does, and select board doesn't. So I think that would be the number one thing, but other than that, I don't know. I just know they have a system. When they get it, they take care of it, they harvest the trees, they do what they gotta do with all the rest of the forest.
No trails.
Trails
Maintain
if
the
they want
trails.
to.
That is an old document. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's just giving the maintenance of the land to the management of the
If it's
land.
helpful, when we do the voter's guide, we can state that fact, that it'll be managed by forestry and out of the direct control of conservation, if you think that's appropriate.
I do. I think some of the voters don't understand once this goes into a town forest, a lot of things can't happen on that property.
Do you have a such as for us?
So there's a little bit of banter right now, and I don't know the ups and downs of it all, but they're talking about e-bikes. So the forestry committee is talking about e-bikes. And I don't know if they're looking to restrict them or not. There's no final answer on it. But to me, that's over-governing. So I am not in support of putting this into town forest. I think the selectmen and the conservation committee can manage our own forest to a degree, working with forestry. That's my opinion. I think sometimes when you give somebody too much power and they control a land, we run into issues. Like the possibility of not being able to have electric mountain bikes there because they're not propelled by pedals all the time. And again, I know it's just a discussion. There's no formal vote or answer on it. It's just something that I was part of.
Understood.
So the land around it is already a town forest?
I understand that. I see a concern there. So being on this board now and not there previously, I want to voice my concerns and I don't want to be part of I want to be part of I want these boards to be part of the decision-making as well as forestry, not just one board. I think as a group, we should be able to make decisions together. That's my opinion, and my opinion only.
We have other parcels that are not managed by forestry, so it's not unnormal. Raymond's is not under forestry, it's under Parks and Rec.
Doesn't forestry keep a healthy forest, like they manage the cutting?
Yep, they oversee the
Like,
timber harvesting.
like who would do that if it
Well,
wasn't a town
define a
forest?
healthy forest?
You're allowing younger growth to come up and the older trees to,
But for 4 billion years, humans have never forested land, and it's always been fine. So, I mean, I don't understand, like, the perception of what a healthy forest is. A forest is just a forest. It does what it does. Doesn't matter what you do as a human. A forest has a natural state that it will always go to. So if you stop human interaction in that forest, the forest will go back and revert to its form that it goes back to, and that form is whatever it is. I mean, a healthy forest, really, I mean, I don't know, as an arborist, I just don't understand the term healthy forest.
all right, so for the sake of argument.
I'll give you an example. Out in California, for 50 years, they were putting out forest fires, and that stopped the growth of sequoias. So, but they thought they were doing the right thing. So, I mean, human intervention isn't always the right thing. And it doesn't matter what you do to the forest, they will always, once you stop that activity, it will always go back. It will always change based on what the earth's doing, so.
So I'll just throw one more in there, that when they do cut the trees and they sell them, they get money to maintain the trails.
True.
And we can still achieve that by not having it in a town forest.
You can still
We can
harvest.
Still, we can still
You
harvest.
can still harvest.
And the monies can go back to that. It's just, as a governing body, we would all have a say in it. Versus,
Selectmen could manage the cutting of it.
with forestry and conservation, absolutely.
Okay.
Once it goes into town forest, we no longer have a say.
We do appoint the forestry committee. We kind of have a say.
We can have a say, yes.
I understand what you're getting at, and it's, yep. All right, well, everything being considered, all those in support of the forestry article?
I support.
I support it.
I support,
I support it.
and you do not.
I do not.
Understood. All right, next warrant article, the police collective bargaining agreement for 2023 to 2027. Shall the town vote to approve the cost items included in the 5-year collective bargaining agreement ratified by the Board of Selectmen and Pelham Police Local 3657 of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits, and to further raise and appropriate the sum of $114,110 to fund for the current fiscal year, the first year of this agreement, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that will be paid at the current staffing levels. This is a special warrant article. So, great. Is there any discussion around this warrant article to accept the bargaining agreement for the PD? All right. All those in support?
Support it.
I support.
Support it.
Support. All right, proposed tax exemption warrant article. Shall the town of Pelham vote to adopt the provisions of RSA 72:81 and enable the town to grant tax exemptions for new construction performed on commercial or industrial uses? The intent of the exemption authority is to provide incentives to businesses to build, rebuild, modernize, or enlarge within the municipality. The exemption shall apply only for municipal and local school property taxes assessed by the municipality. This exemption will not apply to the entirety of the property value, but only to any increase in assessment which results from the new construction. The period of time for which the property is eligible for exemption is 10 years. The percentage of authorized exemption is as follows: years 1 to 5, 50% of the increased assessment value as described above; year 6, 40% of the increased assessment value as described above; year 5 and year 7, 30% of the is that jumping around? Year 5 and 7, 30% of the increased assessment value as described above; year 7 and 8, I think this jumped around a little bit, 20% of the increased assessment value as described above; years 9 and 10, 10% of the increased assessment value as described above. For purposes of this exemption, the term new construction shall mean new structures or additions, renovations, or improvements to an existing structure. For purposes of this exemption, the term commercial shall include retail, wholesale, service, and similar uses, and the term industrial shall mean manufacturing and heavy manufacturing, consumable manufactured goods, lumberyard, timber activities, recycling facility, household waste, veterinary and large veterinary hospital, and warehouse. If adopted, this warrant article will become effective April 1, 2023, and will remain in effect for 5 years. All right, any discussion on this?
I think there's a formatting issue on that.
There is a formatting issue,
So-
but
I think when it got converted over to this, it pushed a few aside, but the basis of it is year 1 through 5, 50%, year 6, 40%, year 7, 30%, year 8, 20%, years 9 and 10, 10%.
right. Well, formatting aside, this is fairly straightforward, and I would like to thank you guys for looking into this. Any discussion? All right, all those in support?
Support.
I support.
I support. All those against?
I don't support it.
Against.
All right. And the last one up is the Water Commission proposed warrant article. Shall the town vote to expand the current established water utility district from those properties that are adjacent to and within 500 feet of the following 2 water main line extensions? 1, an extension of the existing Marsh Road water line beyond Pelham High School along Marsh Road to the intersection of Mammoth Road, and 2, an extension of the existing Pennachuck water line beginning at the Nashua Main Street intersection, traveling east along Main Street to the intersection of Bridge Street, and then extending down Bridge Street to the Dracut Town line to the entire town of Pelham, New Hampshire, to the entire town of Pelham, New Hampshire, per NHRSA 31:134 through 149, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to appoint up to 2 alternate members for 2 years to the 5-member Water Commission. Realize legally that this passed muster, but this is going to be a lot to digest on the warrant. All right, any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
So I looked up the original warrant article for to establish the water utility district. And it does what it says here. It establishes the district on Marsh Road and an extension on Nashua Road going down Bridge Street to Drake it. And then it goes on to say, the expenses of the water district shall be borne by the property owners and the water users as appropriate within the water district. And further, that the water district shall be managed by a 5-member water commission. So all that's fine, but if we change the water district to the entire town, I'm concerned then that means that everyone in the district, the town, would be responsible for any expenses that are incurred in that water district. And I can't support that. I can't tax someone who is not getting a benefit to this water, to the water lines. Now, I understand that the town would probably not be paying for the water lines. It would probably be a developer or a Penachuk or someone else who is putting the water lines in. I don't think the town of Pelham is going to take it upon itself to put water lines in. But there's other expenses that go along with those water lines, maintaining them, digging up the roads, repaving the roads. And those should be the responsibility of the people along the water line. So I would suggest, well, I don't think we can change the warrant article, but if we need to have additional districts, which I believe we do need to have additional districts in the town to provide water to people that do not have water, we need to make those areas districts by themselves, just like the Marsh Road and the Nashua Road districts.
Mr. Bergeron?
We have water lines in town now that the taxpayers pay across the board. So like there's fire hydrants, the Penachuk water system, like stuff that where that gets passed on to the whole town. So I think it would be the same thing, in my opinion. Because I mean, all those Penachuk increases, it goes, the taxpayers cover them for all the water on Marsh. I think what comes down to, if there's a line running in front of your house, that resident has to pay, I think, $10,000 to hook up to that line, and then they're getting a monthly bill. But the infrastructure, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting what you brought up. I just don't, I think we're already doing that now. Whether it's one district or not. I mean, are we considered a water district here on Marsh Road?
There's 2 water districts now. There's one on Marsh Road and there's one on Nashua Road.
But I think those expenses are already being spread out through the town.
The hydrants are.
Mr. Cody?
I think you guys are forgetting one major part of this, is that the Water Commission was established to address the MTBE in this area. And that issue has still not been addressed. So the intent of the Water Commission was to establish a Water Commission to get money from the state for MTBE. And since all that has happened, the state has denied us twice on the MTBE money. But the purpose of the Water Commission is to bring water to relieve residents from MTBE along Marsh Road to Sherburne and from Bridge Street down to Drake it. And that hasn't happened yet. So I'm not sure if I can support going the entire town as the district when we got to focus on those 2 areas and figuring out what's going on over there.
I think it was just so that you do the whole town, that we don't know what's going to happen in 3 or 4 years, 5 years. So we're going to have to put it back out and keep changing. I think that was the reason of blanketing the whole town. So we don't have to keep coming back to the drawing board. Or keep going back to a warrant article.
Can we bring the chair in to have a conversation, or is that like open it up?
I think it might be helpful in this particular instance to clarify. If you'd like to come up, Mr. Bear.
Hi, Kimberly Abear, 39 Parkside Drive, Pelham, and I'm also the Water Commission Chair. The main reason why I think it's important that we have jurisdiction over the entire town limits, I'll give you a couple of examples. I was called to a neighborhood off of, I believe it was off of Wellesley. It was a neighborhood that had a problem with their shut-off. I was able to call Pennachuck, even though we don't have jurisdiction over that area. I was called to an area on Radcliffe last week that they had overchlorination issues, and I was able to, I jumped on that. I called Pennachuck. They went and flushed out the lines. They took care of it. But really and truly, I don't have any jurisdiction over that area. The third example would be that as we research phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 of bringing water to Pelham, where the most important parts are, that I am currently reviewing VOC data from the DES for the old dump area. So, you know, that is going to be an area that we do need to bring water to. And we also have neighborhoods off of other areas in town that don't have water. So in order for us as a water commission to make sure that we include every part of Pelham as a priority and to help prioritize what is what, I believe it's important for us to have jurisdiction over all areas now as we research. Does that answer the question?
Can you speak to Kevin's point of the MTBE, the original, and I know you weren't here at that time, but.
Absolutely. So from what I understand, that Pelham applied for a grant from the DES. It was returned a couple of times. And it was my understanding that if you received the grant, part of having the receipt of that, you would need to have a water commission in place. The same, I would believe, holds true for the grant that we are applying for. So we've applied for the feasibility study grant. Following that, once that study's in, we'll be applying for the larger grant that will determine from that feasibility study what we cover in Pelham and where we bring water in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 via warrant article to cover 70% of that grant, as the state will only cover 30%.
What jurisdiction would you have? So say if the Water Commission takes jurisdiction over the town, what was your say over Pennachuck, if you have any?
So Pennachuck owns the franchise, 100% of Pelham, but as we forge through this process and this journey, I'll use Sherburne Road for an example. I just wrote Attorney Radigan to ask if we can take parts of the town back. It's been clear to me as I've been researching this that a lot of towns gave pieces of their town to Pennachuck, but a lot of them didn't give the whole thing. And so if you put that into play and think, let's reverse it, then maybe we can take pieces back from Pennachuck. And in that case, if we were to take Sherburne Road back and we were to lay pipe going up there, that we wouldn't be paying Pennachuck. So I don't really know what authority we actually have over Pennachuck. We're working closely with them as we go ahead. For example, Wellesley, Radcliffe, laying brand new pipe with that overchlorination issue. I called them. They answered their cell phone immediately. I drove up there, talked to them. They were very helpful. He was very transparent with me. He let me know exactly where the problem happened. So I believe that we can work hand in hand with them and negotiate to take parts back, not declare war on them.
And to Charlene's question, if I understood it right, the tax impact to the resident who isn't using water would it be anything, the way I see it as, however the water gets laid down, the only time you're gonna have a tax impact is if we actually have a warrant article that would pay for it. So if we have other means of getting a water line down the road, there would be no tax impact to people who aren't using the water,
I agree with you.
correct?
I agree with you.
Except for fire hydrants.
Except for the fire hydrants for the fire department, which we pay for now on this district. All right.
So does this give the Water Commission, I don't want to say authority, but like who decides who's going to put water lines down and where they're going to go? Like who's going to, do we sign a contract with someone
I
or?
think this all is so that they have an issue on Sherburne, but the original warrant article has nothing to do with Sherburne. So
Right.
if they're trying to help people on Sherburne, they need to be able to help people on Sherburne. Technically, they can't. So if we're getting grants to pay for something that they don't even have the jurisdiction to be in, this fixes that. So this gives them the jurisdiction to be in.
But it's my understanding, the only reason that we set up the Water Commission in the first place was to get this grant from MTBE. Is that right?
Originally, yes, and now MBT has left Pelham, but we also have another issue where we don't have water at these houses on Sherburne Road.
So are we going to give the Water Commission carte blanche to just kind of do what they want in the town of Pelham?
I don't think so, because I mean, everything's got to go to the select board, but I'm not going to sit and have a water commission on a Wednesday by myself. So we have a board that's basically bringing us information, and then we kind of make those tough decisions. If they come up with, hey, the only way we can do it is to put a $6 million warrant article, we need to make that decision if we're going to do that or not. So they're basically just the fact finders. I wouldn't say they really can do anything without our say. In my opinion, that's the way I see it working, but.
I agree with you, and as this team already knows, we communicate quite frequently with this board.
So essentially, there's no tax impact because nothing can be done without, by making the whole entire town under Water Commission's jurisdiction is just so they can research it.
Basically.
Nothing
Or,
else can happen from that.
Right,
It's
pick up
difficult.
issues where they happen to arise.
It's difficult to apply for a grant of a part of the town that you're not really supposed to even be in. This is allowing them to be all through the town, wherever there's a problem.
So essentially, right now, Sherburne Road, we're aware of an issue. You technically can't apply for a grant, or the Water Commission can't apply for a grant to do anything over there because you have no jurisdiction. And this fixes that.
That's what I understand. And to answer the question that just came a few minutes ago is that the feasibility study is going to tell us where we should be focusing throughout Pelham.
So do you need to have this jurisdiction in order to do that feasibility study?
I don't know because I sent it back to you guys and Town Administrator Work signed for it on behalf of Pelham, so Pelham, I think, is acting in that manner. In other words, any contracts, anything like that, I wouldn't sign, you guys would sign. Administrator Work would sign.
That was the contract for the feasibility study.
Right.
That had been approved.
So are we putting the cart before the horse here by allowing them to have jurisdiction over the whole town before we do the feasibility study? Should we wait and get the results of the feasibility study first?
My concern with that is that if we just keep expanding the water district or allowing them to cover whatever sections are having issues, we're just going to end up playing whack-a-mole. There's going to continue to be issues throughout town, and by just saying, catch the problems where they arise, bring us the information, we act as a board from there.
That's the way I see it.
That's,
Yeah, I don't think this is a matter of giving power or anything like that. It's more so, we had such a small section of town we were focusing on before, and like I said, the MBT's gone, so we can't get that money. So now we're trying to just help other areas in town going forward. It's not really changing anything. It's just basically saying, hey, if we're gonna invest in looking into Sherburne, we at least need the right to be on Sherburne Road, and that's what she's trying to get here. But there's other spots in town that could be popping up where they want the jurisdiction to be able to go look over there. It's it's really not, I don't know, I think we're looking too much into it, in my opinion.
Mr. Croto?
Kevin, I have a question. To your MTBE point, do you think that the Water Commission is moved now because we're changing its purpose?
Well, its original purpose and intent is, it is moot. I think that's why it came apart. It's because there was no forward motion, there was no reason to be in existence.
Correct. So we can still have a Water Commission?
Sure.
All right. Everyone good?
Yep.
All those in support?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes,
I support. Charlene, that was a yes?
yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bear. That brings us to the end of the final warrant article review. All right. Is there anything anyone else would like to bring forward for discussion? All right, then Selectmen and Town Administrator reports. Chief? would you like to-
I do have a couple things. So I wanted to reiterate that there will be the master plan meeting, and it's a community forum event. It's scheduled for February 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. at Sherburne Hall. As we know, the master plan hasn't been updated for, I think, over 10 years, so this is a very important opportunity for citizens to speak their mind of where they see the town moving forward in the next 10 years. Second of all, I did want to announce the schedules for the Budget Committee reconsideration. That's going to be Thursday, January 12th at 6:30 p.m. at Sherburne Hall. That's Budget Committee reconsideration. The Town Deliberative Session, that's going to be on Tuesday, February 7th at 7 p.m. in Sherburne Hall. The Town Deliberative Session, Tuesday, February 7th, 7 p.m. Sherburne Hall. The School Deliberative Session will be the following night, Wednesday, February 8th, 7 p.m. at Sherburne Hall. Again, the School Deliberative Session, Wednesday, February 8th, 7 p.m., Sherburne Hall. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Cody.
I have nothing.
Mr. Bergeron?
I have nothing to report.
I have nothing to report. Mr. Keegan?
Nothing.
And Mr. Croto?
I have nothing to report.
All right, we do have a need for non-public under 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, sections A and E. So we are going to pause the public session, and we are going to, let's see, I guess we need a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, oh, actually, no, let's scratch that. Chief, would you call the roll?
Selectman Cody.
Yes.
Selectman Bergeron.
Yes.
Chairperson Corbett.
Yes.
Selectman Turkesian.
Yes.
Selectman Croto.
Yes.
All right, at this time, we are going to move into non-public. The only further actions that will be taken are potentially sealing the minutes. Once done in non-public, we will return to public session and then adjourn the meeting from there. If you're going to stay and wait for us, we'll see you in a little bit. Otherwise, we will see you in 2 weeks. And have a good night, Pelham.